we're trying to work together.
That's right.
Actually, okay. I'll take the first two, you take the second.
Okay.
Hi, this is BRIE, and you're watching Magic Image
Hollywood Magazine.
Oh, bad. Oh, bad. All right, you take it. You're the pro.
So, my guest today is noted film, television.
No, but you can start all over again. Once, just in
you
case.
gotta
Just in
make
case.
me
Yes,
do it.
one more.
All right.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. BRIE, what's your name?
Strohmeyer.
Ladies and gentlemen, hi, my name is Esai Morales, and I want to introduce BRIE Strohmeyer from Magic Image Hollywood Magazine.
I don't get an introduction very often. Usually I have to do the introduction.
Well, actually, I'm taking on new hats.
But it's kind of a casual place that we're at. So I am joined today by noted film, television, and theater actor Esai Morales. So let's just get right into it before our pizza gets here.
Let's do it.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about how your career began?
Man, you really want to go back there? I'm a kid. I'm a little kid from the Bronx with a vivid imagination who loved the Beatles, who loved pop music and Walter Mitty. And that the idea was I could be the Walter Mitty of the Bronx, and I would have all sorts of like things in my head. I mean, a really vivid imagination. And I was an only child, so basically.
You got to come up with things to do on your own.
Yeah, you know, so the mirror making faces, accents and things, and I really enjoyed Michael Jackson and Donny Osmond, who were the two big, performers at that time, and I felt like if I got discovered, I felt right in between those two. I could sing both of their things. I mean, I could mimic them exactly.
Yeah.
And
So what were your?
that's why I should be discovered, but I had to settle for acting.
So what were your steps to getting discovered? Because everybody talks about that moment.
Performing Arts High School. I think it's the basis of your training. I tell people out there, get training, because it's easy to get a role, or I should say it's easier to get a role and an opportunity than it is to maintain a career. And you maintain a career by having a technique, something you can apply to any job you approach, And Performing Arts High School is just a godsend. A public school for kids who had a knack for the arts, dance, music, or drama. And I was in the drama department, and I just, I remember being 12 years old, looking at Al Pacino on Dog Day Afternoon and pointing to the screen and saying, that's what I want to do. And, and I was determined then.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little bit more in a second about kind of what we're touching just a little bit more about training as far as an actor's concerned.
Absolutely.
But I think probably where everybody first started to notice you was your film Bamba.
Yeah, well, Bad Boys before that, believe it or not, with Sean Penn, who's done amazingly well. You want to talk about a great career.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby, no. Sean was one of the most dynamic up-and-coming actors at that time, and I just heard about him through this movie, and I auditioned for it and forgot about it. I literally thought, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, whatever happens.
Whatever. I walked out of there, I didn't wait for the phone to ring, and it didn't ring for a few weeks. But when it did ring, I was first choice, and it was pretty amazing. I was 19 years old, and I'd never done a big feature film in my life. I'm doing a Universal film, with Sean Penn, who was, a up-and-coming big deal, and still is.
Do you think there's anything that made you stand out at 19 that others might not have had?
Well, I gotta tell you, it's so weird because I walked into that audition and I saw bigger, better looking guys, more muscular. I mean, I thought, wow, I wasted my subway token on this thing. And as I was going to the elevator, I was gonna push down, and I saw the down, and I thought, I don't want to leave like this. That's a cop-out. We don't quit. I went back in there and auto-hypnotized myself, like a caged animal, and literally walked in that room with an attitude. Enough with it, the niceties. Let's do this.
Let's try this.
And I left.
Yeah.
And I was dead serious, and that I guess stuck with them enough. And they finally made the decision. They came to me, and I've been grateful. Look, Bad Boys put me on the map. I think Bamba kept me there for quite a while.
And when you weren't auditioning for the role you played in Bamba,
No.
were you?
They wanted me to come in for Richie, and I believe I could have done a decent Richie. I could have sung my own stuff. But I just felt, when else am I going to get a studio movie with the name Morales as a lead, who is historically, relevant, as the brother of one of the biggest, meteors in rock and roll music of Latin origin. And I thought, wow, he's got the issues. I want to play the guy with the issues. I want to play
It
the
can be
guy.
more challenging.
Well, yeah, a lot more fun. Man. I get to make out with girls, smoke pot, and ride motorcycles.
Be the bad boy you weren't in real life.
Be a, you know, yeah. I mean, no, I wasn't a real bad boy. That was naughty.
Slight bad boys are good
This is
too.
terrible. What am I saying? I'm a dad now. Yes.
Okay, so La Bamba, and then your career started to build. Do you feel like you kind of got niched or stuck into a pigeonhole? And if that was the case, what was it?
Well, it's a good question. You know, I tried not to. I actually turned down a role that I believe I would have done decent in as well, but I'd done already, the angry young Mexican. And I just did La Bamba, I did Bad Boys, I was, you know, angry young Latino. And the wonderful movie, Stand and Deliver, which I believed in its message. And it was a young Mexican, you know, with the bandana, with an attitude, and I was just like, wow, is this what I'm going to play the rest of my life, you know? And I thought, let some other young unknown or you know, real Mexican-American get the chance. So I thought I'd step back, and well, the movie did great, and I may have won the enmity of someone who might have thought I said no to their project. And I didn't. I was just a young kid who innocently wanted to share the wealth and not do every young Chicano gangbanger that came along. I was trying to avoid stereotyping.
Yeah, and do you think that stereotyping is a problem?
It's a problem that if you talk about it like I have for years, number one, just doesn't go away. And they don't, you know, necessarily hire you anymore. They kind of think you're an activist. We want an actor, you know, and I've always had that draw that says, you know, maybe I should shut up. And I'm sure there's a segment of the population that says, yeah, very good, do that. But I do believe that I owe it to myself as a citizen of these United States of America to exercise my civic duty and to speak out if I see injustice in my community or any other community. Animals, for example. I love protecting, you know, the defenseless. You yourself are involved in a wonderful, you know, dog organization. So I can't help it. I'm a bleeding heart. I was glad he has a heart that bleeds. You know?
So is that where the National Hispanic Foundation Parents came about?
Well, yeah, the concept was, you know what, in the 80s after La Bamba, everybody said, okay, everything's, you know, well, there's a Latino wave. We're finally going to get our representation in numbers and quality that we deserve, you know? And it doesn't. It doesn't happen. And we thought, you know what, sometimes they'll take somebody with a Latin last name, put them on the producer's list, and go, hey, a Latino-made movie.
Right.
And we want to be more than tokens. So we said, let's look for the top schools that are producing the top students and kids that are getting, you know, high grade point averages. You've done well this far. We want to give them a scholarship, and more importantly, what you said before, connectivity.
That's right.
Who you know.
Who you know is so important.
It's almost too important. You know, sometimes I think it's 50%. It might be even more, sadly, because people would rather work with the devil they know than an angel they don't.
That's a really good statement.
Yeah. There's half of some of the leading men and women in Hollywood. Anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, the foundation. The foundation decided to help out people, and one of these people, 3-time recipient, was a young man named Rashad Ernesto Green. He was the writer-director of Gun Hill Road, the independent film that...
Which you were just recognized by...
The Amine Foundation. Thank you, Helen Hernandez, and all the wonderful people at the Amine. I really, really appreciate that you took me into consideration and gave me that wonderful award. It means really a lot when it comes from your own community.
And the subject of the film is pretty intense.
Yeah, that's a tough one to deal with our, you know, Latin population. They're a little more socially conservative when it comes to things like that. They don't like to talk about sexuality. And
from the Midwest.
you understand, you know, Bible Belt, you know, ethos that says, come on now, you know, the Jones are watching, and you know, you got to represent our family as God-fearing, you know, decent people that we are for the most part, with the exception of a couple of cousins and uncles and aunts. But anyway, it's a movie that, if I may be really frank with you, we don't see enough of in our community. And part of the reason I believe our community suffers, intolerance and you know, ignorance. It's not just our community, but part of the reason our community suffers that is that we don't have enough art that helps us deal with this. In mainstream, right? Let's say you have ordinary people, You dealt with, Kramer versus Kramer, divorce, modern divorces. You have all these emotionally complex stories that help the American psyche work its problems out. We don't have that. We don't have budgets that really help us deal with, being who we are and where we are. And if we do, they're really meager. And that's why my hat's off to Rashad and the rest of the folks that made this. Yes, I'm executive producer in this because, I forfeited what a real salary would be like to do it. And the reality is I think many more people like myself who've been blessed enough to be still working in this business in spite of the slings and arrows and barriers, seen and unseen, that there are out there. For everybody, not just people of my background, everybody is tough, They made a film that touches universally the hearts of the people who watch.
Which is important. And you're right, film, TV can really be a powerful platform as far as getting messages.
Look at Roots.
That's right.
What Roots did for African American, the community, and more importantly for the Anglo-American community, or the non-African American community. It made you proud of African Americans. It made you proud of their culture and their heritage. It made you proud of whatever African American you had in you, if so.
Yeah.
And it gave respect to that community. And you saw afterwards television shows like Cosby's.
That's right.
It
can change the dialogue.
I just think it enhances that, and we have yet to see anything from our community that was given that kind of budget, that kind of scope, that kind of importance in craft. So that's why I decided to start exec producing, because as an actor, it's really tough.
And now you can kind of build the slate of projects that you want to work on for yourself.
Oh my God, where do I start? I just talked to Dennis Leone about a project I don't even know if I should talk about, because until they get financed, it's kind of jinx. It's considered a jinx, but I'm not superstitious. But then again, I don't know everything, so who knows? But we have a wonderful project called Pistolero. That's all I'll say. It's a gunman, pistolero,
Right.
And he happens to be, Mexican American, and he's the good guy in the story, the anti-hero, but the good guy in the story. And when have you ever seen that?
Not very often. Yeah.
When have you ever seen that? The last time I think of a benevolent lead in a Western that was of Mexican or Latin American descent was the Ballad of Gregorio Cortez. Early 80s maybe, or 70s. Edward James Olmos. You just don't see that. I wonder why. We have so many great people. So I don't mean to get on a soapbox, but I do mean to say, come on, Hollywood. We're part of the family here. We deserve our stories to be told with love.
Okay, so switching gears a little bit.
Yes, please, save me. I had to cut all this preaching out.
Tell me 3 things that most people don't know about you.
I'm a musician.
Okay. Instruments, across the board, you play them all?
No, I'm more of a guitarist, but I've stopped playing guitar since my guitar partner is so good. So I sing, and music is a closeted talent of mine.
I would make you sing for me, but we'll go to number 2 and 3 first.
Who knows how long I've loved you? Wait, you have to pay for that, right? That's a Beatles song. Anyway, no, I have different styles. But anyway, what else people don't know about me? I used to draw. I'm very visual. I danced for many years, like just freestyle dance. Love it. And I thought I was a triple threat until I seen everybody else just surpass me. In the 80s, man, you could be a triple threat, but then Michael Jackson came along and really took it to another level. And I miss his spirit, by the way. I want to say thank you, Michael. I'm sorry you had to endure all of that, because at the end of the day, he was, he was found, he was acquitted, but it's just so sad to see people jump on someone so quickly, prejudge.
Which happens too often.
Yes.
Okay, so you're an artist across the board.
I think so. What else?
Do you cook?
You know what? I cooked when I was 10 years old, and I made a huge mess. And I got reprimanded, to say the least. So I let my great gal cook. She's amazing. I don't cook, but I appreciate cooking really well, too well.
Favorite
So we're
dish?
here at MICELI'S.
Yeah, I know, right?
This is like
great
great
restaurant.
food. You know? Favorite dish? Just my girl. Whatever she makes.
Well, that's all good things.
Yeah. How about you? Your favorite interviewee?
You, of
No,
course.
no. But you know what? I wonder if I should ever do a talk show. That's another thing. Montel Williams was talking to me about doing a talk show. We almost started going that direction, but it didn't quite work out. I ended up doing some other feature film stuff. But
What would your talk show, what would it look like?
it would look like, unfortunately, Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Yeah, because I see conspiracy theory as a wonderful wastebasket to put a lot of truths in so that nobody can ever really take them seriously.
Real quick, what's a great conspiracy?
I don't know. I'm still wondering whether we really landed on the moon or not.
I wonder that also.
There's some interesting science tidbits I'm going, wait a minute, that's
And they
true.
say that they're at a studio in Burbank.
Yes! And
So-
think about it, you could fake this. We live in such a media-manipulated society that I think half of everything we see on the news, if not three-quarters, is a bit of a show.
Perhaps. That's a good idea for a show. I'll have to see you coming to that.
Then there'll be, whatever happened to Esai Morales, you know? Yeah.
That would be the conspiracy.
They found him in bed with a underage, same-sex farm animal. Or something like that.
Oh.
But that's our media today. That seems to sell. If it's scandalous, if it's horrific, and that's kind of been like that for history to a degree. But if you look back at Hollywood, even glamour, it was separated from scandal. There was yellow journalism and then there was real journalism. And it's really bled through so much now that, I don't know. It's hard to know what's entertainment and what's really information.
I think that's a really good point.
But we're glad that Magic Image
It's all true.
Hollywood is
it's all completely true.
only deals in verifiable fact. That's right. You want the truth? Right here. You want the truth?
You can't handle the truth, right?
You can't handle it. Oh my God, okay. Hang on. Hi.
Gosh, now you're gonna make me laugh.
I thought that was a good out, but I didn't know. If you want more, I'll give you more.
I don't know. Anything that you would be doing if you weren't acting besides being a talk show host, besides being...
Stuntman, underwater diver.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just love adventure. What I would not be doing is sitting in an office
Yeah.
and pushing numbers or having to write. Although I feel like I have too much to say sometimes. My friends will say maybe more than that. Organizing them on paper is daunting for me, so that's why I have a lot of respect for journalists and people who have to prepare like you do and do your reading and homework. I'm an autodidact. I'm a person that does not have a high school diploma. That's another one of those things.
It's one of those things we don't know about.
I don't have a high school diploma, but I wouldn't count me out in a debate with any PhD. Because if you want to learn, nothing can stop you but yourself.
Right.
And that's what I tell people out there, especially if you want to be actors. So they say, what do you tell young actors besides, are you crazy? Wait a minute, have you seen the numbers? You have to work 3 times as hard as we did in the 80s to make the same amount of living that you do, today. Anyway, I would say learn to love and love to learn.
Great advice.
Bottom line.
I don't know. I think we could probably almost end right there.
I could talk to you all day. A pretty
But,
face has got me.
Yeah. I don't know. You could tell us a little bit about other projects that are coming up. I know you said.
Los Americans is
That's
out
right,
right
that's
now.
right.
How about this? There's a wonderful web series for people who don't want so much controversy or sexual, alternative lifestyles. There's a web series called Los Americans. It's really wonderful. It's created by Dennis Leone, the creator of Resurrection Boulevard. Wonderful writer, producer, and he directed 8 episodes of 15-minute segments. They're short and sweet, but the people who've seen them have been raving about them because it's something you don't see. I don't want to get on the bandwagon anymore, but it's a middle-class Mexican-American family with Lupe Ontiveros as my mother, who's an amazing actress from Selena all the way, for many years to El Norte. Tony Plana, dad on the Ugly Betty series. Raymond Cruz, who's wonderful in The Closer and many other projects, as well as a wonderful supporting cast of people that you may know and are going to get to know. And this family deals with problems. The basis is that I'm a bit of a coconut, a little brown on the outside, but all American on the inside. And I don't think my kids are Mexicans. So don't call them Mexicans. You know, Mexicans live in Mexico, right?
Right.
We're Americans. We live in America. And she has an issue with that because she doesn't want me to lose my culture. She has a problem. She's a closet alcoholic.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think she drinks a little too much. You know? So my wife has issues with, you know, our daughter being almost in a very compromising situation because the grandma was watching them. She drank, fell herself. There's all sorts of family issues, and grandma invites my cousins from 30 years ago. I don't remember. He's like a gangster homeboy, and then his illegal immigrant wife. I'm like, what? Illegal immigrants? No. I go, oh, he was undocumented. I'm like, oh, what? Still, it's illegal. You know, so it's one of those shows that you deal with a lot of problems, and you can go to the internet and find links to social service sites.
Well, that's really interesting.
So it's a socially conscious web series that if you identify or have problems with any number of the issues, unemployment, immigration, you can find help. So, and they're
How did
also
you get
on
involved?
buses. LA TV is doing, they're being shown on buses. How did I get involved? Dennis Leone called me up right after I had my little kid. He said, I know you're busy with your family, but this is another family, and you know what? We never see enough of this. And
Yeah.
Lupe's, you know, she'll do it if you do it. And I got Raymond interested. If you got, you know, like, if everybody else does it, we'll do it.
Yeah.
But it was done for, again, very, very little money. And it's sad. It's sad that we can't play ourselves with real budgets, with a network, you know, to support us. But hopefully if this show does well, the network will see that, hey, look at all these clicks, look at all this love. Why don't we, you know, why don't we put some muscle behind this and make it the way it should be?
So again, how do the viewers find it?
The viewers find it by going to Los Americans, not Los Americanos, Los Americans, because I'm American, at losamericans.com. Also PIC, Public Internet TV or channel, .com, PIC TV, actually PIC.TV, but basically www.losamericans.com. Look for us there, check us out, and if you like us, tell your friends, and let's grow this, because I think it's a real smart and clever show, and it's funny.
Yeah, and it's a great idea too.
The director actually wrote it as a drama, and I read it as a bit of a, not a sitcom, but like a Modern Family-ish, funny.
Yeah.
So check us out.
All right.
So, Bree,
So I guess that's a wrap.
that's a wrap.
Now it's time for our food.
Hey, wait a minute. Time flies when you're having fun.
No, I thank you so much, and I know our viewers appreciate your insight and wisdom and sharing a little bit about yourself with us.
Well, thank you. I hope I didn't talk your ears off, but I hope you understand that it's all love here, and we're grateful to be in such a lovely presence.